Welcome back to Uncut with Lucia, and thank you for joining us. Today, I will be talking with Jeff Bernier. Jeff is a book author, speaker, and the founder and president of TandemGrowth Financial Advisors. His latest book, entitled The Money and Meaning Journey, a guide to clarity, financial confidence, and joy, is coming in October 2022. So, Jeff, welcome to Uncut with me, Lucia.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
Yes, I'm very, very happy to have you here. And Jeff, you are a successful entrepreneur, and now you are publishing your first book. So, first of all, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yes. And can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah. So I grew up in South Georgia. I live in the greater Atlanta area now, but I grew up in the southern part of the state, in a small town. And my dad was the president of a small community bank in the town. So he was a leader in the community, and I guess that had some influence on me. But I got out of high school and went to the University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia, and met a speaker in one of my finance classes who was a certified financial planner. He came and spoke to our class, and at a young age, I said, that's what I want to do. So I got really fortunate to be exposed to what a financial planner does, in particular, what a certified financial planner does and is all about, and got sort of excited about the career and didn't really know how to do it. But I got out of college and came to Atlanta, which many of us do, from over in Athens, Georgia. Came to Atlanta and started working with a large financial services company that gave me the ability to do financial planning early on. So I learned through that organization how to do deep discovery and needs-based analysis and figure out what people needed, and was in that company for essentially 17 years. But I knew early on I wanted to be an advocate for the client. So continuing education was really important to me. So I obtained the certified financial planner designation. I obtained the chartered financial consultant professional designation. I obtained the certified fund specialist designation. So I took a lot of classes, and then I got a master's degree in financial planning. I remember going and speaking at a college one time, or a high school, I can't remember, and speaking to a bunch of students. And I told them, I've taken more tests after I got out of college than I probably took in college with all the certification. But I was with that company for 17 years, but always felt called to do things differently. So in 1997, the same year my wife and I adopted our son, I joined a coaching program that taught me how to be an entrepreneur. And once I was in that program for a little while, it became obvious that I needed to start my own company in order to be a true advocate for our clients and remove the conflict. So we started my firm that I have today, TandemGrowth Financial Advisors, in 2003, to be totally independent and an advocate for our clients. And so since 2003, we've built a practice that provides independent, objective financial planning advice and investment management. And then rocking along in 2013, as I was approaching my 50th birthday, I read a book that I had read many years before called Halftime by Bob Buford. And this book is really all about how to go from success to significance in the second half of your life. And this book just hit me like a ton of bricks. And so I actually went to Dallas to something called the Halftime Institute and learned about how we go through these transitions as we reach sort of the midlife, if you will. And I got passionate about reforming the way we coached our clients help them with both, the money issues and the meaning issues, which is part of the title of my book. But at any rate, so since 2013, I've tried to create a practice where we help people get on the deeper issues of what matters most, and then help them build the financial plans to fund what matters most, so that they can live a life of clarity and confidence and joy as they transition into Act Two, as I call it in the book. So that's what we do. Like I said, I'm married to my wife Ashley of 30 years. I've got two children, and that's a little bit about us.
Beautiful. And you were telling me that you adopted two kids and you have grandchildren. Hmm?
I do. So yeah. So Nicholas was born in 1997. So my wife and I were able to have children. So we met an attorney here and taught us how to do sort of the adoption process, if you will. And we were just super blessed in 1997 to be chosen by a very special person,
Mm.
the birth mother, to be to be the parents of Nicholas. That was in 1997, and then in 1999 we did a similar process and had Natalie, my daughter, and adopted her in 1999. And now my daughter has two children, so I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old grandson. So we've got two boys. So we're very busy with our grandchildren.
Oh, that's so good. Having babies at home, or I mean kids at home, is like it's like being young again. I don't know. It's the feeling I have. Mm.
Yeah, it's really neat. I know we had talked before about kind of what I'm working on, and one of the things I'm working on is how to be a leader to my grandchildren. I mean, this is new. It's been a while since I've dealt with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So, I like to think that I'm a lifelong learner.
Mm.
And one of the things I'm having to learn again is how to be a leader to my grandchildren. So it's been very busy, but it's been very rewarding too.
And what were the top three things you and your wife did with your children to help them understand finances?
Um, well, I mean, I think the first one is stewardship. Our faith is really important to us, and I think the first thing I want to teach them, and I have taught them, is that we don't own any of this. I mean, we just get to manage it for a little while. So it's not ours. So it's our responsibility. We get to manage it, but it doesn't really belong to us. So be grateful and know that you're a steward. The second is really pretty basic. I mean, you've got to spend less than you earn. You've got to live within your means. And I talk in the book a lot about about our cycles and our the sign of the S curves that we go through. We can talk about if you're interested. But the first part of our life, we're learning. So grow capability. So invest in yourself is the best investment you can make. But after you start creating value for others, then you might get compensated. I know in strategic coach program that I was in for a number of years, Dan Sullivan calls it the entrepreneurial decisions. And I would teach anyone this, but depend on your own ability for economic security. I mean, you can't depend on your parents, you can't depend on the government, you can't depend on your employer. You've got to depend on your own ability for economic security. The second principle that they taught in strategic coach was um, don't expect anything in life till you create value for other people. So depend on your own ability for economic security and create value for others, and you'll be compensated. The third thing I just lay on top of that was just be grateful, as I mentioned, because it's all a blessing. We didn't.
It is.
We've been given certain things, and we have a responsibility. So, but be grateful. Start each day with gratitude. Now, those aren't all financial principles, but I think they're good principles to live by.
Yeah, I agree completely. And Jeff, you now you became a writer. Have you always wanted to be a writer? And what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah. So I have a key team member here in my firm that has been with me since 1998. So she's a very important uh, partner here in the firm. And she tells me that I've been talking about writing a book for as long as she's had a relationship with me. So I have thought about this obviously for a long, long time. But I think a lot of us have the imposter syndrome, right? Thinking I'm not good enough, I don't have anything to share. And there's tons of books out there on every what have I got to add to the story, and I had those same feelings. But as I started, kind of processing what I'm called to do in the rest of my journey, if you will, I thought I had some things that are worth sharing. And um and so a couple of years, and I've thought about this for a while, um because of my experience coaching clients and some coaching and programs I've been involved in, and plus I'm a voracious reader. I read a lot of different things, and I'm Strength Finder tells me one of my gifts is connectedness, so I see connections between different things. But at any rate, in a couple of years ago, I was at a conference called the Journey of Generosity. A group called Generous Giving hosted a workshop, and it was a lot of fun because we were in Montana fly fishing, and we did the program at nighttime. So it was a lot of fun. But I also learned about the value of generosity. And one of the exercises they had us do, we just walked around in the woods for a while and talked about what are we supposed to do with our platform. What are you supposed to do with the platform that you've been given? And it just occurred to me it was time to write the book, time to put pen to paper and try to share some of these messages that I had learned over the last 36 years coaching clients about the psychological and financial challenges that we face as we transition into the second half. And of course I also have a personal story that I can share briefly if you want to hear it.
Yes.
So in I remember my dad. I mentioned that I grew up in a small town in South Georgia. My dad was the community banker, and loved his customers and served his customers with excellence. And I remember in 2003 coming home after a unsuccessful surgery that my mom had had to try to eradicate a cancer that ultimately took her life. But we got home that day after this unsuccessful surgery, and my dad was quite upset, naturally. And he told me that this was one of the three worst days of his life. And he told me that one of the three was the day he retired. And so that had a bit of an impact on me. This is all the way back in 2003, but it always stuck with me that he didn't have something to go to that excited him. So he was the banker, he was the leader in the community, and his identity was largely on that. Now, my dad is finished strong. He's still alive today at 91 years old, and doing pretty well for 91. So
Oh,
he's
good.
finished really strong. But the point was, it affected me that we should have something to go to. And so in my work with clients since 2003, I see similar themes. I see people moving into the second half. So there's a long answer to your question, Lucia, but it's really just passionate about helping people transition into the second half with both the means, the finances that they need to go do what they're called to do, which is the meaning. So it's uncovering what matters most, what makes your heart come alive, figuring out what really gives you meaning and purpose, but also creating the financial resources in order to go do that. So
Mm.
that was really the idea behind the book.
Yes, and I'm happy that you went for this walk in the woods because otherwise maybe you wouldn't have written this book.
Yeah, possibly. I think the other thing too is, I think God speaks to you all different ways, and you get nudges all different ways. It could be from a person, it could be from a thought, it could be a challenge or a tragedy in your life that
Mhm.
can force you to make change, because our egos like the status quo. We like things the way they are if we're comfortable, and sometimes we have to get a little bit uncomfortable to change. And so things happen. But not long after I went on that conference and made the commitment to do it, I saw Seth Godin, or listened to Seth Godin on Tim Ferriss's podcast. Seth Godin, as you know, maybe
Uh-huh.
you know, is a writer, marketing expert, but he wrote a book called The Practice Shipping Creative Work. And it was really motivating to me on, I've got something to share. It helped me kind of get over the imposter syndrome challenge that I had before, in terms of just get it out there and don't worry about outcomes. And so I had a really low bar in terms of my objectives. And when I set out to write the book, and that is, I just want to help somebody, and be proud of the book. And I think I've accomplished that. So I'm excited about getting it out in the world and seeing what happens.
Mm-hmm. And Jeff, what is the key lesson that you want everyone to take away from your work or your book?
Yeah, I think there's two. The first one is that you can have financial peace and meaning together through a process, and and through good planning. I mean, through good planning, it's not an either or. I mean, it is definitely a right brain and a left brain endeavor. I mean, in my firm, we have a logo that has two trees that come up together. And so which is similar to the money and meaning concept, but you can have the financial resources and joy together. You can with good planning. So the idea number one is that you can have a fulfilling, meaningful second act, and the second half can be the best half, if you will. So that's idea number one. And number two, it's really helpful to have a guide, whether the guide is this book, or this guide is counselors or a financial advisor. I think a guide can be helpful, because some of these are emotional issues, some of these require technical financial strategies, and so number one, you can have you can make the second half the best half, the second act the best act of the play, and the benefit of having an advocate or a guide.
Mm-hmm. So your book is a kind of guide, so we can leave it on the nightstand and sometimes go there. No, I can have this kind of advice, and I love when books are written in this way. You told me that you show some stories that happen in this book. It's a kind of memoir. Can you tell us just a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, so you're correct about the objective of the book. So the book was not really designed to be a book that you just sit down and read in one sitting. You certainly could. I mean, it's not the book touches on a lot of important subjects, and it encourages the reader, as they're interested, to go deeper. And it's a book full of resources of where you can go if you choose to go deeper. But it's also, the middle part of the book is a workshop where you basically go through a workshop that I used to do for clients, called the Money and Meaning Experience, where you work through some of these issues. In many of these types of things, you should probably read the chapter and then go walk around in the woods for a while, or sit under a tree and think, or pray, or examine. So it is very much designed to be like that, not just, the second half of the book, which is the wealth management toolbox, is a little bit more informational about financial markets and how to create the financial means. But the first part is largely about this coaching around uncovering what matters most, and how you where is your platform as you move into the second act. But in the book, as you mentioned, I am very transparent in the book, to a fault. So I share some of my own challenges and struggles, because the hero in this book is the mid to late career professional, or recently retired, potentially professional,
Mm-hmm.
who's trying to figure some of these things out. And while they may have financial means, they don't have the fulfilling second act that they thought they might. But the reality is, I'm in that too. I mean, I am in that same place. I am at that point in my life where I'm trying to strategize the second act. And really, this book is sort of a manifestation of that, because I've uncovered that this is part of my
Mhm.
calling to do what we're doing today, and what I'm doing in the book. So in the book, I do tell some stories about things I learned about, the benefits of having independent objective counsel. I talk about the early parts of my career where where my mantra was "fake it till you make it."
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned before, I was a chameleon. I would just change colors based on whoever was in the room with me, and really not living according to my true self, my true values, who I really was. I was trying to impress people. And we still all struggle with that. I mean, we all struggle with our persona and trying to present to the world an image that we think that they would like to see. And so there's a lot of personal stories and memoirs about things that I've learned about, looking back, how silly it was to try to be the chameleon. Instead, I should have just been my authentic self, and I would have attracted the people that would have been attracted to me as an energetic, young,
Yeah.
passionate, young advisor, instead of some guy pretending like he was this big, sophisticated finance guy who was 25 years old, coaching people who were 60.
It's
So it's kind
different.
of laughable and embarrassing all at the same time when I look back. But I'm hoping that the messaging is really about, recognizing your true self, and your who you really are, and not get swayed by what society tells us we're supposed to be.
Mhm. Yeah, and as I can see, for example, this book can help even people like me. I'm not well versed in the financial world, but the way you describe this book, like you tell stories and you expose yourself. So this is it looks like it's an easy book to read. Am I
Well, that
correct?
Yeah, well, that was the plan. So it's a like I mentioned, the first 25% of the book talks about some of these challenges that we face as we move in to Act Two. The second 25% or so of the book is this workshop process to help you
Mhm.
uncover and get clear on what matters most, to help you figure out for you uniquely your stage, what platform that you want to be on. Where do you serve?
Mhm.
Where do you use your gifts out in the world? And then the third part of the workshop is all about creating the margin, creating the time, the money, and the energy to go do whatever you're called to do. And so I think those are universal and helpful to everyone to deal with some of those kinds of things as we move into the second and third act of our lives. The second half of the book, the wealth management toolbox, if you will, touches on broader wealth management. I mean, there's a chapter on tax planning, and a chapter on estate planning, and there's a chapter on retirement income planning, and a chapter on evidence-based. So there's a lot of material in there, but I wrote it in such a way that it's really designed to be very easy for someone who's not as well versed in some of these issues to just understand the major things that you have to think about, because our industry, as you know, is famous for creating a lot of complicated jargon and
Mhm.
complex. And there's a little bit of that, but I go real shallow. I'm just really trying to tee up the important concepts. And it's my experience that the most important things that we need to know, there aren't that many. And if you understand those at a high level, then you can find a partner to help you with the technical part if you need it. So no, I think the book is a pretty easy read for most people in terms of the technical part of the wealth management toolbox, and I hope encouraging, because it's designed to be encouraging. I have determined that something that I'm really passionate about is being an encourager, because as I mentioned previously, I am an optimist.
Yes, this is great. And now I know that I'll be able to read your book.
Oh, great. look forward to hearing your feedback.
Yes, I will. I will write you a review after reading it. And Jeff, I I feel as if I could be talking with you for hours, but we have to go. So I just want to know where we can find you, your book. Tell me more. I'm sure our audience will be looking forward to knowing you and your work a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I'm passionate about sharing this message of money and meaning. I'm passionate about coaching people on behavioral finance and behavioral investing, and I'm passionate about what I call evidence-based investing, which is the science of investing rationally instead of emotionally, and using the evidence. But you can find me. The best place to find me in the book is at jeffbernier.author.com. So that's JEFFBERNIER, and then the word author, AUTHOR.com. So jeffbernierauthor.com is where you can check out the book and order the book and check out my blog and podcast and other things. And then if you want to reach out to me, hello@jeffbernierauthor.com is the best email address.
Mm.
I'm on Twitter at Bernier Jeff. TandemGrowth has sites as well. If you Google TandemGrowth Financial Advisors or TandemGrowth.com, you can check us out there as well if you're interested.
We can find you all over. Yeah?
Yes, not that hard to find.
No. So, Jeff, I want to thank you very much for your time, for your great advice, and hope you keep doing amazing things, being successful, and keep writing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the encouragement. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you very much.